Tesla's going to do a new roadster. I think if memory serves 1.9. These guys have become...
he's crowdfunding.
Yeah, but what I'm saying, he's an impresario, if I'm saying that right, which is he's doing what, I don't know what P. Diddy does. Like, really, other than make announcements and say he's down with this guy. And then there's this other fat rapper guy like Sheikh Khalid or whatever. This guy's I see him on commercials.
I have no
and
idea
stuff.
what he does.
I have no idea what this guy does. These guys just market themselves.
That's it,
and the next thing you know, you go, oh, and then they brainwash a lot of people, and then the next thing you know, you're having arguments with people about Kanye West being a genius. He is a genius, and you're like, I don't even know what he does. And it's like, then you go, why? Oh, he's going to be on Saturday Night Live as a musical guest this weekend. Okay, let me watch. And then he goes out and he points at the ceiling, and he goes, yeah. And then he points at the ceiling some more, and he's like, yeah. And then he comes back, and then I run into the same person. I go, he's a genius. He was a genius. And I go, well, what's he doing on Saturday Night Live? Yeah. Well, sometimes he just points at the ceiling. I would be like you going, Jerry Seinfeld's the greatest stand-up ever. He's the greatest stand-up ever. You've never experienced stand-up until you've seen Jerry do a show. And then you go down to Caesar's Palace, and Jerry goes out on stage and points at the ceiling and goes, yeah.
Funny.
And, he doesn't say a joke. No joke. He just points at the ceiling like, yeah. And then I run into you and I go, oh, yeah, well, he probably wasn't doing comedy that night. But believe me, he's the best.
Yeah, don't judge him by that.
Yeah, don't judge him by that. No, that's him.
Yeah.
That's just him on stage with a microphone and millions of people watching. But don't judge. He's probably... What was he doing? Pointing at the ceiling? Oh, yeah. No,
I've heard he does that from time to time.
Yeah, that's not the genius part. It's the other part that he doesn't do when you're watching him.
Yeah.
So take my word for it. So everyone is now just marketing themselves, right? And the Ball brothers are playing basketball, and Sheikh Khalid is... It probably doesn't go by Sheikh.
No, but if you look at what who CAA is signing, or who all these agencies are signing now, it's celebrities, it's musicians, and then influencers. That's a whole category.
So
now.
Elon, in a way, is an influencer. In a tech way, he's an influencer, and so he's out there kind of P.T. Barnum-y going, I'll build tunnels. I'll build tunnels through the Sepulveda Pass straight to the airport, straight to your plane. And I've not gotten these discussions. I had a discussion with Lynette. I'd be curious where I'm like, they don't have the tunnels though. He hasn't, and my wife's like, oh, he's built those tunnels. He's building those tunnels. And I'm like, he's building them or he wants to build them? It's like, I saw a picture of the tunnels.
In his parking lot. He drilled a hole in his parking lot at Tesla.
I saw a picture of the tunnels, and I'm like, you saw pictures of Logan's Run, No, and she's like, he's on it, and I'm like, I don't know, I don't think he's on it. I think he did a computer rendering.
Yeah,
he sent it out,
and then he drilled a hole in the parking lot at Tesla.
And there's a bunch of people who are so desperate that there would be a tunnel, so they didn't have to sit on the 405, but. You've got to sit on the 405 every day. What tunnels? But the point is my wife thinks he's made tunnels, and that's
exactly what he wants.
And he's a hero.
Yeah.
And I'm sitting there going, he has tunnels? He's done that? Yes. There. Look at the pictures. And I'm like, oh, God bless this guy. He's a genius. He's a savior. He's a savior. Yeah. And it's like, I'm not sure what he did yet. I mean, Chris can look it up, but it's perfect because I'm fairly sober and fairly literate, and I live in the town where he's drilling the tunnels, and I have no idea what he's done.
No.
Other than he's a hero, and this is a great idea, and he may be done for all I know.
Yeah.
And Lynette thinks he is done, or at least he's gotten started. I don't think he's gotten started.
But he's controlling the message, which is a great marketing move. He's controlling the media, which is a great marketing move. I mean, Trump effectively does that as well. I'm not picking on Tesla's cars. I love the idea of a crazy roadster that does 0 to 60 in 1.9 seconds and has a 600-plus mile range. Granted, I think you either get the range or you get the performance. You don't get both at the same time.
Sure.
And then he came out and said on Twitter, he's like, after his announcement, he's like, oh, that's the base model, basically. That's not like the ludicrous mode. It'll go faster than 1.9. Okay, I get it. And then I said, why is every media outlet calling this the fastest production car? It's not in production. It's not a production car.
Right.
Okay.
No, it's he's controlling the narrative.
How come when Hennessy releases a model or a concept of their car and says this is going to be the first 300-mile-an-hour street car, everybody goes, "Hey, we'll wait till see it." Right. This is a great idea from Hennessy. Let's see if he does it. And then Tesla's headlines are fastest production car.
Right, because he and DJ Sheikh Khalib have figured out a way to game the system.
I want it to work. I'm such a fan of the automotive industry. I want that to work. But if you give that guy a $50,000 deposit, or you give him the full $250,000 to get like the launch edition, and it sits in his bank account for 3 years, do you earn the interest on that?
Interesting. Well, listen, what do I know? I'm only worth between $16 and $30 million.
That's right.
No. So here's the thing. And here's why I'm not, a first-year deposit guy. Basically, I figured it out. I've learned my lesson. And I also understand that the model that you just pine and pine and pine for becomes yesterday's news, like super quick.
Yeah.
And this battery stuff, I mean, just from watching, I think like Road and Track TV or something with those little segments where we're at the Tokyo Auto Show, and they give they jump in with little bits and pieces. Some of this electric stuff, some of the range claims, and some of what's just around the corner. I mean, it's going to be like cell phones. There was a time when there was something called a mobile phone, and Dan Tana had one in his car. And if you're the president or a doctor, a surgeon, maybe you had one, but you didn't have one if you just were a school teacher. And now everyone has one, and the batteries last 10 times as long, and they're quarter the size unless you want a bigger screen. The electric car, we're right there. We're right there. I mean, 2 years ago, I'm looking at something that's plug-in, dedicated plug-in that I can get from my house to the studio and back in about 11 miles each way. And I'm going down looking at a $160,000 BMW, and the plug-in range is 18 miles.
Yeah.
And I'm saying that's not enough to get me to work and back. And they're like, yeah, well, it's got an engine too. And I'm like, yeah, but I'm kind of my plan is to plug it in when I get home, and then go to work, come back, and plug it in when I get home, or miss a few days, because I'm just going to work and back. Like 90% of what I do is I leave my house, I come to work, I'm here all day, I get my car, I go home. Once I go home, I'm pretty much home. I take the dog for a walk or go to the gym or whatever, go to the corner, but I'm just there. There's no more extra mileage. Right. So if BMW gives me 60 miles on a plug-in, then I'll plug it in Sunday night, and I'll go to work Monday, Tuesday, maybe even Wednesday, and then I'll plug it in again or whatever. But then it'll give me 18 miles. Now we're turning the corner.
Yeah.
And what I'm seeing out of these reports of these, shows, talking about the car shows and everything's like 500, 400, 300, reasonably priced, like stuff you'd like to drive, stuff that looks pretty cool, stuff that works for your family. And, when they gave us the first Volt, I think, it was the Chevy Volt.
Yeah.
I think we got a first-gen Chevy Volt here, and I don't know, the plug-in range was like 27 miles or something like that.
Yeah,
and
I forgot what it was,
I had the thing like sitting here at the shop, and I plugged it in with just some 110 like out in the parking lot, and it was like on 8, and I was like, I got to get home, and home's 11, and I plugged it in, and I went and did some podcasts or whatever, and I came out like 3 hours later, and it was like on 10.
Yeah.
And it's like, okay,
that one's a little.
This is not going to work. We're right there right now.
Yeah.
Like it's now all going to work. When I turn in my Jag lease in 2.5 years, there will be thousands of choices of great pure plug-in cars.
Yeah, and like you're saying, not just the technology. Like, it's going to be some cool looking cars and some functional cars and,
Fast
SUVs
cars.
and
Absolutely.
sedans and, some cool stuff. And again, I'm not picking on the Tesla cars. I think they're great. I think the car looks awesome. I think their semi-truck looks awesome. They're doing an all-electric semi-truck, and Walmart already said they want to prototype these things. Walmart has thousands, if not 100,000 or 20,000 semi-trucks that they own.
Yeah.
It's a great idea. I just, I'll just buy it when it's done. I don't need to buy it 3 years in advance.
There's only so much you can do with 40 grand worth of electric car in 2017. We are on the cusp of having so much more for the same money 2 years from now. Like,
40 grand buys all of the engineering, all of the batteries, the motors. It buys all of that.
I just feel like anyone I know who wanted a plug-in electric car, I would go, just give it another 18 months, 2 years, then make your move.